Hi folks, Jen here. And it's been a minute since I've made one of these videos because I've been kind of in a dry spell where I haven't deeply loved any of the last books that I read, but I just read one. Saying that I loved it sounds uh, loved is not exactly the right word because it was a very hard book to read, but it was Some Bright Nowhere by Ann Packer, and I was mesmerized by it. And the reason I'm having a hard time saying the word love is that it's about a woman. We know from the beginning she's dying. She's in end stage cancer, and the book opens with her saying goodbye to her doctor that she's not going to have any more appointments with because there's no more treatment. If she does anything now, it's going to be hospice. And it's incredibly sad. And at the same time, oh, Ann Packer, her writing is just absolutely gorgeous. And I was mesmerized, and I read this book pretty much in 24, 36 straight hours. I really loved it. And frankly, if it reminded me of any book in the world, it reminded me of this book by Elizabeth Berg, one of my favorite writers. And this is my favorite book by her, Talk Before Sleep. A woman is dying, and she is unmarried. She does not have children. And so she gathers her best girlfriends around her as she's dying. The choice that she makes at the end of this book really took me by surprise. And the choice that our main character makes in this book surprised me as well. And again, I'm not giving anything away. All of that is on the flyleaf. But it poses a lot of questions about, whose death is it anyway? Who gets to decide what they want? What do we owe the people that we love? Who really gets to make the decisions? And it's just mesmerizing, and I really loved it. And I'm not going to say anything more about the plot, but it's mesmerizing. And then I also, so what Betsy book did it put me in mind of? And there's not a lot of death. There's not a lot of loss in the Betsy-Tacy books. And the first thing I thought of was Death of Leonard, which is just excruciating for me. And I thought of all the goodbyes that Betsy says in Great World, people she's probably never going to see again, and there's a war, and she's really not going to see some of them again. But when you think about the Betsy-Tacy series and you think about death scenes, I think there really is one important one that stands out. So this is chapter 8 of our first book, Betsy-Tacy. And this is the death of baby B, Tacy's little sister. And it's a somewhat fictionalized story because Tacy's little sister did die, but she was 3, and she was very much beloved, the pet of the family. And it's in some ways more wrenching, I think, to have a child you know even better die. But in any event. So this chapter is interesting because I think a lot of us read it as children, and we read this book and we read this chapter and didn't think anything of it. Parents these days who, read their children's books sometimes before their children do, et cetera, many parents have told us that they skip this chapter. They don't want to upset their kids. I am never going to tell a parent what they should do. Your kid, your family, your decision. I will say that I hope that parents will reconsider that and think about it, because it is sad. In our experience, children handle this much better than adults handle it. Maud's writing in this chapter is so sublime that she basically provides a primer for how to talk to children about death and how to support a friend who is grieving. And Mr. Rogers famously said, look to the helpers, look to the helpers. Well, my friend Shelley, one of our board members, points out children can be the helpers. And that's exactly what's happening in this chapter. Betsy helps Tacy with her grief. First, she's simply with her. She's just with her. She sits with her and lets Tacy talk a little bit. And then they talk about B, and they talk about where they think she is now and what they imagine heaven to be like. And Betsy uses her imagination, and she has an idea, and we're going to give B an Easter egg, and probably the birds will be able to bring it to her. This is all very child thinking, but it's something nice. It's something concrete. Here's an action. Here's something we're going to do. And she makes Tacy smile a little bit. Imagine B knows something now that we don't know. She's the baby, but she knows something we don't know. And Betsy also finds her courage, and she climbs higher in that tree that she's ever climbed before. And she's able to do this for her friend. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous model for children of what to do, of how to talk to a grieving friend. and to really just give them the gift of your friendship. That is the very best thing you can possibly do. And that's what Betsy does in this book so perfectly. So that's my Betsy-Tacy read-alike for this mesmerizing, often infuriating, extremely compelling, very beautiful book by Ann Packer that I do recommend very much. So these are some interesting pairs. And I'd really love to hear from people who skip this chapter or don't skip this chapter, but what the reaction has been from children you have shared this book with. Because yeah, I just think that's an interesting question. All right, I'll be back again with another book, and I hope you enjoy reading these.